All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and get started. If I can grab your attention. My name is Chris Ritchie, as the sign says. The extraordinaire part, you can determine that later tonight, whether you buy me a drink or throw a tomato at me. But my name is Chris Ritchie. I am the past president of Redmond Economic Development, and I'm excited to be here, excited to have this full room. This is a great event. We will brew up some good things today, not just beer. And hopefully teach you some things about what's going on in Redmond. Forgive me, I was told I have to stand up here, so if my male pattern baldness gives anybody some, headaches, forgive me. It's my mother-in-law or father-in-law's fault. Let me get my script going here. I got a few folks to thank that would make this event. Without them, this event would not be possible. So please show some appreciation for our title sponsors, Summit Bank, Express Employment Professionals and Specialized Recruiting Group, we also can't forget our presenting sponsors, i3D Manufacturing and BBSI. We have some returning sponsors, Mike's Fence Center and Sunwest Builders. Thank you. And our newest sponsor, Seneca Holdings, Chase Doors. For those of you that went on the Made in Redmond tour, you got to see their facility. That was a great tour, so check it out next year. Again, thank you, sponsors, for your investment and attention to these events. We could not do that without you, and the collaborative work that you do in our community, but also partnering with other organizations like REDI. We have a really, really good program tonight that's going to be packed full of a lot of information with what's going on in Redmond. You'll hear first from our Director Steve Curley on some of the new and developing projects here in Redmond. Next, we'll introduce you to leaders from Basalite Concrete Products. You can see some of their swag up here. But our final expert panel will take on the hot topic of business financing. And if you clap loud enough, he'll tell you his dad joke. Trust me, it made me laugh. So at the end of the event, stick around. We have a table full of raffles that I think you would want to see. There's some Basil Haydens from Basalite. Those guys are my new friends, if I can get a little taste. But I guess right here it says I'm supposed to insert my dad joke, so you'll have to bear with me. So today is National Horror Movie Day. If you guys didn't know this, yeah. How many like horror movies? Okay. So my wife is a big fan of them. I was actually watching a horror movie, and she was in the kitchen. I was watching, and I was yelling. I was like, "Don't go in there! Don't go through the door! Don't go through the door!" My wife's like, "What are you watching?" Needless to say, I'm here tonight because I was watching our wedding tape, and I need a place to crash tonight. So there you go. All right, moving on quickly. I have the privilege of introducing our current president, Rick Bailey, to give us a few welcoming words. So Rick, would you please come on up?
Thanks, Chris. I've got my own dad joke that I'm really struggling to restrain myself, but I'd like to thank everybody for being here tonight. I'd like to thank our sponsors. If you didn't catch all the names that Chris went through, take a moment and look at the table tents, and you'll see who they are. I'd also like to thank Mary and Courtney and all the people that behind the scenes that made this possible. So as Chris said, I'm this year's president, and I want everybody to know that it's an exciting time to be in REDI as Redmond continues to grow. So we couldn't do what we do without our investors and supporters. So again, thank you all for making the time to come and support REDI. If you're not an investor in REDI and want to know how you can get involved, you can either track me down or any of our board members that are here tonight. Can I have our board members raise their hands who are here tonight? Look around, and if you see a hand up and you want to get involved, track one of these people down. So with that, I'd like to let you know that there will be more opportunities for dad jokes once we get down to the raffle. And with that, I'm going to give it back to Chris. Thank you all.
Thanks, Rick. I was really hoping you'd share another dad joke, but next time. So next, man of many words, many projects, and many successes, Steve Curley has worked as the executive director for REDI for now 3 years. Okay, I'm rounding up as a numbers guy myself. Not my strong suit. Round to the positive. So Steve, as the REDI director, has a lot of, we have a lot of projects that we've done, a lot of projects that, hopefully you can all still hear me, that are in process, and a lot of projects that are to be determined that are hush-hush. So without further ado, let's hear some news, Steve.
All right. Great to see everyone tonight. What a great crowd. Thank you for coming out and spending a few hours with us here and learning what's happening in Redmond. Before I kind of get into my update, I just want to thank a few people and recognize a new member of the REDI team. We brought on Jessica as our new team member. Where is Jessica? There she is. So she is our new admin person. You saw her when you were checking in. Great addition to the team. Really happy to have her. She's been doing a great job. And I also want to recognize Mary Knight, who's fighting a cold and making this thing happen. So she's doing awesome. Thanks, Mary. And then one other thing. How many here are familiar with Measure 118? Okay, so I'm surprised not all the hands went up. So Measure 118 is on the ballot. It is a tax. It's referred to as a regressive tax. It's a tax on revenues on companies making over $25 billion. It's a 3% tax. It will have a significant impact in our state on economic development. It'll have a significant impact on what you pay for goods and services because the tax can be levied at every level in the supply chain. So grocery stores, car dealerships, a number of different types of companies that are going to fit into this category. Pretty much every elected official that I've heard from on both sides of the aisle are letting people know how bad this will be for our state. So that doesn't happen in Oregon very often, right? We don't get both sides of the aisle kind of pulling in the same direction. So we have some yard signs back there. There is a no on measure118.com website. If you want to get more information, they also have flyers and things that you can pick up. Mary's holding up one of the signs back there. The Redmond Chamber of Commerce also has some of this material if you just want to drop by there and pick it up. But if you are not educated on this, get educated and make sure you vote on this issue. And obviously, I don't have to tell you how to vote. So with that, I will jump into my update. So I'm going to throw a lot of numbers at you here. If you have questions after, we can talk about that. We break down our pipeline into move and grow projects here in Redmond. We don't have as much startup activity in Redmond. A lot of that is happening more to the south of us. In our move companies, we've got 9 companies that would represent 2,457 jobs with over $593 million in capital investment. We have a pretty big project in there that if it happens will be very significant. It would happen over like 10 years plus here in Redmond. So we're working hard on that. Pretty fun project. I wish I could tell you more, but eventually, hopefully we can get to that place. In our grow projects, we've got 13 companies representing 515 jobs, over $193 million in capital investment in our grow projects. These represent companies that are here and expanding, and that is really over the last few years where a lot of we've seen a lot of the growth. We haven't had, and this is region-wide, we haven't had as much move activity as you can imagine with interest rates and all the supply chain issues that we went through. So companies kind of backed up and said, let's wait. Finally, we're starting to see some of that change, and I'm excited to hear the panel tonight. They're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like for us. So that I think is going to be a treat. So when you look at our done deals, this year so far, we've had 7 done deals. A done deal means a company has moved in, they've occupied the space, they're using the space, So it's truly done. So 7 companies, 90 jobs, over 30 million in capital investment. So that is just in 2024. As far as our flex space goes, that's space that leasable space. We've got over 35,000 that's permitted and under construction. One of those buildings is about a 24,000 square foot building. It's already leased. In fact, Compass just leased it. If there's anybody here from Compass, they just announced that here the other day. And so some of these projects, they're getting leased before they are even finished here. So just to give you an idea of the activity, we've got a little over 70,000 square feet of flex space in the planning discussion phase right now. When you look at our vacancy rates, so just this afternoon, Compass released their third quarter Compass points, and we jumped from a 2% vacancy rate to a little over 4% vacancy rate. And that is partly because we had a new property come online, about a 12,000 square foot flex space that has 6 smaller units. What we're seeing is some of those smaller units are taking a little longer to lease, in that sort of 1,500 to 5,000. But if they're over 5,000, those are going fairly quickly because we don't have an inventory there. So that's what we're seeing on the lease side and on the vacancy rates. Some of the notable projects that are happening. So I know there's some folks here from Nosler. So they are working on their expansion. Their shooting tunnel is going up right now. That's kind of the first part. And then they have about a 78,000 square foot building, Mike, if I'm not mistaken. Get the thumbs up. That'll be coming right after that. So a great project for Redmond. You're going to hear from Basalite, one of our local companies that is also expanding, and they're going to be starting with a sales area and then eventually manufacturing. I'll let them talk more about that when they get up here. There's a project that's been in the works for 4 or 5 years probably now, Wild Mike's Pizza. That definitely got slowed down, but they are still on track to build. And so they are still moving forward. Just a lot of our projects in the pipeline region-wide have slowed down because of what we've experienced, and so it's just taking longer to get that project done. But we expect to see that break ground next year. We have one just finishing up, probably taking occupancy here in the next week or so. That's Western Bus Sales. So they're a company based over in Boring, Oregon. If you've driven over to Portland, you've seen them on the left there. They're putting a service facility here for school buses for the school districts. So that is a new resource that we'll have here. Excuse me. Talk too much. And then BaseX just finished up a 36,000 square foot expansion. They just did a ribbon cutting, got to participate. Really cool facility with the new equipment there. They're going to have this robotic welding arm that will pick up these big frames that they weld together, and it'll be able to do the whole thing. I'm really excited when they get that in to see how that works. It wasn't installed yet, but they are working in that building. So those are some of the notable projects. We're starting to see things move forward as we get through sort of the interest rate issue and hopefully through the election here in the next week and a half. I'm sure we're all excited about that. On housing, Redmond is been working ahead of the curve here. They have about 400 to 500 units in the pipeline each year for the next few years to meet those demands. We just saw that the median house price dropped down to about 493,000, just below 500. It was over 500, excuse me. Excuse me. So that is actually a good sign in that when you look at national reports about this area, and we rank very high in entrepreneurship and business growth, but the biggest negative that we face is housing pricing. And I'm sure as business owners, you know that. You're trying to hire people. If you're going to bring someone into the region, that's a big hurdle for folks. So getting that supply up is going to help us allow the businesses to grow to have affordable housing for them. A couple other interesting things that are happening I'll talk about. One is East Side Arterial. So the city is in a design and build project where you're going to see 9th Street extend south across Highway 126 through the old golf course, through that vacant lot north of the solar field. There'll be a roundabout at Veterans and Airport. There'll be a roundabout at 126. That's going to help us with traffic flow of not only the industrial vehicles that are going through there, but also servicing the airport, which is expanding, and the fairgrounds, which will be expanding. Fairgrounds is in a master planning process. Airport, it's a $177 million expansion. So it might be 187 now. I heard they got another 10,000, Ed, coming. So we really need that to relieve some of the traffic on Highway 97 that goes straight up. So the city is moving forward on a part of that, and that's really going to improve our large lot industrial. So we have 789 acres just south of the fairgrounds that was designated large lot industrial. That means they're parcels that are 50 to 200 acres, but we haven't been able to unlock that because we don't have infrastructure there. We don't have enough water and sewer and power there to serve the property. And while it's owned by Department of State Lands, they've been trying to sell it. There's been a lot of uncertainties. So the city has taken about $300,000 of urban renewal money. There's a new urban renewal district down there, and they are master planning and looking at what could go in there. What type of sewer are we going to need to serve that? What type of water needs are we going to have? How are we going to address that? What about the roads and the transportation? So that as a company comes, we can have some certainty and say, okay, we know that this is what it's going to cost. This is how much time it's going to take. So a really valuable exercise to open up that property. There was just a city council, county commission joint meeting last night where they did city did a presentation on that. They're partway through that. It should be done by spring of next year. And so, that land could support anywhere from 5,000 to 6,000 employees up to 10,000 employees. So that's a lot of people, and you got to have all that infrastructure to serve them. So, and then I'll tell one other story, and I'll wrap up. I'm probably over my time, but I love this story, and just to give you an idea of what REDI does and what we do every day. We had a company that came in here not that long ago. They were about ready to start construction. They had made a mistake. They missed a permit that they needed to have. They were all lined up and ready to go, ready to put up the walls. They went into the city, and just normal permitting time. It's going to be 2 to 4 weeks, could be a little longer. They called me and they said, "Hey, could you help us out? Is there anything you could do?" So, having great relationships with the folks back there, just went back, had a few conversations, and they were able to actually get that permit out in a couple days. So, and they didn't have to do anything special, really. It was just a little bit about communication and just kind of making sure everybody was on the same page. And because they do a great job at the city, and they really do work with businesses to get things done. But just a little story of how kind of going behind the scenes and helping to get something done made a big difference. So that's all I have for you tonight. I know you're in for a treat with Basalite and with our panel. And again, thank you, sponsors, not for our gift baskets, for the event. We can't do this without all of you. So thank you.
Hang tight. I think we have 1 or 2 minutes for questions. Yeah. Any questions? Just peering out over the audience. Any questions? No? Okay, pop quiz. Is Redmond growing or shrinking? Most of you win. Okay, good job. Thank you, Steve. So, can you hear me okay? Yeah, there we go. Steve, thanks for sharing that last story there, because I think that is at the heart of what REDI does, is to try and be a bridge builder, a matchmaker. But really, we're just trying to create economic prosperity between the public and the private sector. And we're trying to do that in the right way, to use our resources wisely, because obviously we know that that's a finite commodity. So, where'd I go here? Oh, yes. Next, I have the pleasure of introducing a special friend of mine who's filling in for her boss, our first title sponsor, Karen Turner with Express Employment Professionals, providing Redmond and the region with over 30 years of experience helping get the local staffing that you need. Here to tell us more about Express Employment Professionals and Specialized Recruiting Group, what they do. Welcome, Karen. You gotta come up here. You gotta come up here.
So I want to say thank you, because I look around this room and it's actually almost 40 years that we've been serving the Central Oregon region with Specialized Recruiting Group and Express Employment Professionals. And I've had the opportunity to partner with a lot of you. I've been with the company for 27, almost 30 years now. And it's been awesome to see Central Oregon grow. When I moved here, Redmond was 6,000 people. So now we are approaching Bend and what Bend was when I moved here, and it's kind of exciting to be a part of that. Every time I complain about the traffic, my husband says, "You moved them all here." So, I smile and thank the departments that created that bypass going into Bend, for sure. I actually want to take a quick minute because I'm going to put on my other hat. I'm the Investor Relations Chair for Redmond Economic Development. And I want to first of all say thank you for all of you that are investors. And for those of you that are just here visiting tonight, I want to say, think about it. Look at the statistics that Steve shared today. We are growing. We're doing great things. And REDI plays a really big role in making that happen for our community. So if you aren't an investor, I'd like you to really consider participating and being an investor. And if you're already an investor, consider moving it up a level. Let's make this community great.
Thank you, Karen. Next up, we get to hear from our spotlight company, Basalite Concrete Products. Let me give you a quick history lesson on them. In 1939, while many were celebrating engineering marvels like the Golden Gate Bridge at the World State Fair in San Francisco, the Basalt Rock Company of Napa showcased a residential product they built on site with a lightweight block that would revolutionize the construction of office building and residential homes. This is what they built. I'm kidding. Tough crowd. The concrete block product was named Basalite. Here to tell more of their company story are Alistair Schwarzenberger, Vinny Ciccarelli, and Will Fisher. Welcome to the stage. Come on up here, gentlemen. Whoop. That would have been bad.
Hello? Test, test, test.
Gentlemen, go ahead. Give us an intro.
Well, we appreciate being here tonight. We appreciate everybody joining us. Just want to introduce my team, Vinny Ciccarelli again and Will Fisher, both part of the sales reps in our company. And I'm Alistair Schwarzenberger. I apologize for the name. Kind of like a mutt. My mom was Scottish. My dad was German. I grew up in South Africa, so that's what you get. Still learning how to spell it. So we'll work on that. But they're going to kick it off for you tonight. They're much better at this than I am. I'm an ops manager. They're salespeople, so I'll let them run with it.
Sure. Get the clicker.
Yeah.
It's going to be a little interesting. Yeah,
So yeah, we're Basalite Concrete Products. We are a nearly 40-year-old company. Chris, thank you so much for that little intro, the story. So that was actually the inception of the name Basalite Block. In 1979, our parent company, Pacific Coast Building Products, acquired the name Basalite Block and then opened the first Basalite facility. And that was in Napa, California. Then they moved operations into Dixon, which is currently our largest manufacturing plant in the country. Since then, we've opened 11 locations in Washington, California, Idaho, Nevada, and Colorado, and most recently here in Oregon. Here in a second, my colleague Will is going to kind of expound on the reasons why we did that. So some of the products we include, or we manufacture, include like our flagship product would be like an 8-inch CMU unit. We also manufacture a stacked retaining wall product and a lipped retaining wall product. We also do interlocking paving stones, and we have a full line of garden products that we market to DIY consumers through our network of dealers. So that's kind of what we do, as far as like who we serve and who our target audience is. We work a lot with the homeowners, direct consumers. We also work with a network of dealers like your Lowe's, Home Improvement, Ace Hardwares, Power Lumber, people like that. And they service a whole network of builders and DIYers. We also work very closely with the architectural community so that we can get spec'd in on a lot of those projects. We educate them through like lunch and learn opportunities and try to forge strong bonds there. Obviously, we work with masonry contractors. Those guys are kind of our bread and butter. But we also work with the engineering community just to kind of try to help drive specs across all the different projects that we're working on. So that's really who we target. We've been doing that through a lot of our core values. What we really focus on are quality products, quality service, and we drive innovation to make products, to service the ever-changing construction market.
I can't.
Sorry, so this is the sack goods one.
Okay.
Yeah. So this kind of showcases some of the this is a lot of our garden line. Here's some of our pavers. We do tons of different sack good products from concrete to bagged decorative rock. This here kind of showcases, I want to say that this is our Valley Stone that we don't yet produce here, but we plan on doing here in the near future. And then we also, our parent company owns like a big brick manufacturer, Interstate Brick and HC Muddocks. They're Interstate's in Utah, HC Muddocks in Northern California. And they make a great range of products to include face brick, thin brick, and clay pavers. So, this slide here kind of showcases some of our premium colors. This is a glacier split face block. This here is a fluted split face CMU. Down here you have some of our ground face products. And a lot of these were applied here locally at Caldera High School. It's a beautiful building. It's local. If you guys get a chance, go check it out. I would recommend you do so. Over here, this is our jumbo retaining wall block. So I kind of chose just some beauty shots. Just like, this is what you can accomplish with some of those units. You can, make some really pretty radiuses and then kind of give like this really neat cascading look with a lot of the wall caps. This here is a Valley Stone. It's a product that we would eventually like to make here in this market. It is a lip retaining wall product, and you can kind of see it comes in a straight face and a tri-face. It's a really great retaining wall block. You can go from up to 4 feet, like a lot of DIYers will go up to 4 feet. Over 4 feet, you have to engineer it and get signed, permits and signed off by licensed engineers and use GeoGrid. Then here's some of the pavers that I don't believe we manufactured these, but this is someone that we resell for Western Interlock and pool coping. So we do basically anything that goes on a home or a business. Yeah. And then without further ado, I'll hand it over to my colleague Will.
Yeah, I have some backyard envy. Here we go. I have some backyard envy. Tell me more. I might blow my budget here, but Will, I mean, why here? Why Redmond? Why is that making sense for you guys to be here, to expand? Tell us
Sure.
more.
Yeah, obviously, as we just talked about, the Redmond, Oregon, Central Oregon area is growing quite a bit. It's also kind of a central hub for a lot of the places that we'd like to serve, whether that be on the West Coast or Eastern Oregon, Northern, Southern, et cetera. We're kind of ideally placed to service the entire state. And so we did have a presence in Oregon. I couldn't tell you how long ago it was, but it was quite a while ago in Portland. We ended up relocating back to Washington just based on market conditions, and sounds like there were some issues with the machinery that we purchased, that it just wasn't meeting the needs that we had in mind for the area. And so we came back here after doing a lot of research on cement products, which is a name a lot of you guys are familiar with. My dad was a GC down here when I was growing up here, and I can remember going into cement products back in the day, and it's been around for forever. So we had a loyal customer base at Cement Products. After doing all the research that we did, we said, hey, let's purchase this place, and they were wanting to sell, and so we moved our Oregon location to Redmond. So yeah, there's a ton of growth here.
And you guys are expanding, right?
We are expanding. We bought a property on 11th and Antler. It's going to be 70,000. 14 acres. It looks like about 70,000 square feet. Our showroom is going to be built first. It's going to have approximately 9,000 square foot showroom. We really kind of what we're hoping for is the nicest showroom in the area to showcase all of our actual products, the products we manufacture, along with products from our sister companies and our vendors like Western Interlock was the pavers that we were showing up there. So.
And then just to add to that too, it's not necessarily the building process that's slowing us down. It's the equipment. Some of these equipment are, we were looking at in Japan, Germany. I just spent, right before I came here, I was with an Italian group down the road working on the robotics for the new plant. And that's, some of these pieces of equipment will take 2 years to configure and make it the way that we want. Some of the stuff we're bringing here that they've never seen in the United States before. So we're going to be bringing in new machines, innovation, technology, a lot of automation, things like that. So
to echo onto that, Redmond in particular has been really business friendly. Sometimes it might be harder to get into Bend as a manufacturing company, but Redmond was welcoming for a company like this to expand, and so that was really great.
Thank you for that plug. Let's open it up to the audience. What questions do we have here? Roger. Did you hear that? Feedstocks? Yeah.
Yeah, our raw materials mostly purchased from Hooker Creek and Latham Excavation here locally. So and the pumice as well that we use in our product are all local here. We do bring in some pea gravel from up north, but that's because they're unable to produce the size that we need. But once we get the size, which I'm sure we can, we'll move that here as well.
Great question. What else? How many employees?
We've currently got between 20 and 25, but after we open our new facility, we want to, obviously drive some growth, and we'd like to add a couple shifts to our production schedule, and we expect to be upwards of around 70 to 75 once we get up and running full speed.
So for a weekend warrior in my backyard like myself, can I come into your showroom, or am I going to be shunned because I'm not a contractor?
Absolutely no. I would say maybe not half, but a good chunk of our business is, a homeowner that walks in off the street, and on a sales side, I'll just take them into the showroom, show them the the veneers that we have, the pavers that we have, whatever it is they're looking for. Outdoor living is obviously a huge thing that's on the grow here, and so we're trying to boost our line of outdoor living kits that are on display. We have a full suite of outdoor living sets that you can do on your own or hire somebody to do for you, depending on how much time you have on the weekend. But there's a whole slew of things that we can offer for somebody who doesn't know the first thing about it, to somebody who's expert master mason and can do
definitely not me.
That's actually a great sales tool for us. So a lot of our contractors we work with, they'll send their customer in to kind of pick out all their finishes. A lot of the time you don't want to really be responsible to kind of lead them in the right direction. So they kind of use us as an extension of their staff to help guide, what products these people are trying to use for their projects. And that's why we really are excited about this new showroom, to be able to really show everything off. And we're kind of crammed into our quarters right now, and we make the most of it. But this new facility is going to be, just state of the art. It's going to be very well lit. We'll have an area for people to sit down, like contractors are coming with their customers, kind of help them to pick what they want. Have a little coffee area to make everybody comfortable. So, the changes that are coming are really something to get excited about, and we can't wait.
Awesome.
That also extends to just other building materials too, because we do have Pabco Roofing is one of our sister companies. So we'll be able to showcase new higher end roofing materials from our place. Even though we are, Basalite Concrete Products, we can also do stuff like, roofing or brick or whatever it is.
Any last, Steve?
So how many manufacturing plants do you have, and how far does the product you're manufacturing here go in the region?
Basically, we try to keep it focused to the Oregon area because we've got about 23 plants that are like ours around the region, California, most of the states west of the Mississippi River. Our parent company, Pacific Coast Building Products, is upwards of 100 plants. And we do anything from turf to decking to even a Learjet company. So we've got our hands in all kinds of different areas, but our main focus is going to be the Oregon market and the local area. Kind of like a lot like a Mike Weston back there. Mike, you want to put your hand up? From my perspective, he runs that plant. He finances it himself. It's absolutely amazing. He's a competitor and we're a dealer for him. But if you go look at his plant, it's just incredible. I mean, I know how tough it is to run a plant, but when you're doing it on your own dime, it's pretty impressive. So,
Thank you. Any last questions? Wonderful. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I didn't see one. No. He was same question.
Before we go, we do have some swag items. If you guys would like a hat, we've got some stress balls up here. We've got plenty. I'm sure everybody's got to work the stress out at your desk, right? And then, some brochures. So if there's anything that piques your interest, please, grab one of us. We'd love to talk to you about it.
Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Basalite Concrete Products. Our next title sponsor, Summit Bank, been a long-time supporter of REDI. You may have been in their new facility here. You may be wearing some Summit socks. Yes, they're Summit socks. Swag Summit socks. I think you can, yeah, right there. I'm not wearing any because I just got them today. I get to introduce Mr. Gary O'Connell. From commercial lending to treasury management solutions, Summit Bank is the leading Oregon-based community business bank in the region. Summit Bank offers comprehensive business banking solutions with a personalized approach and fashion and commitment to economic prosperity in the community. Mr. Gary O'Connell.
I'm up here, down there.
Up here.
Up here. All right. Thank you, Chris. All right, where do we start? First of all, we want to thank you. Everybody at REDI just has done an incredible job. Summit Bank opened in 2015 in Central Oregon. From day one, we've been REDI investors. Also, we would like to thank our host, General Duffy's Annex, Tanner. They're wonderful. In fact, let's do this. Our next drink, your next drink, let's keep these people busy. Next drink's on Summit Bank. It's Jill Cummings' expense card, not mine. So, Jill, we'll have a little chat. But just a wonderful job. And shameless plug, my favorite local band, Chain to Stones, playing here Saturday night. Saturday? Okay, all right. 90s, alt grunge, that kind of stuff. So, anyway, this is like 45 seconds, so I'll keep it short. Just a quick story. We're arguing about the date. We think it was 3.5 years ago at Initiative Brewing. We're outside. Marty Lunan, Matt Denise, and Jill made a declaration that Summit Bank was going to open an office here. They let it go public, and nothing was official yet. So we'd been scrambling. But so we took to our board of directors at the bank a proposal. We said, we want you to invest millions of dollars in Redmond, a town 33,000, 35, growing, and at the time. And we want to buy an old ranch house built in 1950 that needs a lot of work. It's not as much parking as we'd like, and it doesn't have a drive-through. And we got it done. So we believed in the market. It's not about the site. We're so encouraged by the momentum. We go to markets around the state, and we couldn't be more excited to be here. It's been very successful, and couldn't have done it without the community here and the relationships. City of Redmond, thank you. Ed Fitch was here earlier, but the city was great to work with. So thank you very much. That's probably 45 seconds. I'll try to stop myself there. So back at you, Chris. So much more, but all right.
You can stay up. I'm going to keep Gary up here. You're not even going to tell your dad joke?
No.
You want me to tell it? I can't do it.
God, it's not good. All right.
That's the point.
All right. What? Okay, Rick Bailey, you can't answer this if Rick Bailey's still here. Okay. Well, I it's a clean one. All right. What do you call a T-Rex who sells guns? It's bad. You can grind, small arms dealer.
Thank you. Saving me. Making me look a lot better, Gary. Got to share the spotlight, right? So our next section of the program, we're gonna tackle some challenging topic, I think, for many of us. You know, how do we navigate this interest rate cycle that has been restrictive for some time? We've just seen a little bit of hope with the most recent Fed cut, but how does that affect business? So we are going to have a panel come up here. Mr. Gary O'Connell with Summit Bank, Traditional Financing. Ali Paman-Dupierre, hopefully I said that correctly. Craft 3, Ashley Horner, or Ali is with Craft 3. Ashley Horner from Summit Bank. Patrick Jermack, COIC Loan Officer. Could you all please make your way to the stage? Come on up. Okay. You should always bring an alcoholic beverage up here. You never know what's going to happen. Right up there.
You want me to go there so I can set my wine down? As if I'm going to set it down. Oh, can I just set it here? Here. They want me to set my wine in the audience, and I said I wanted it close to me. Is that bad?
Okay, we want to make this very engaging. We'll get started in a moment. And we always say, do we hold questions till the end? If you have a burning question, please ask along the way. Please challenge us. Please engage us. Hopefully you're enjoying your next drink. So in any event, the business and lending environment has always been very difficult. It's not any easier right now. It's a very dynamic environment. I'd like to give a little brief context first. So the last couple of days, Summit Bank, we had a business forum, 40 business leaders around the state. One of the attendees cited a pollster who said capitalism is not a good word. When you poll people, you ask them if they support capitalism, it's not trending well. The same question was asked, do you support economic freedom? And everybody says yes, economic freedom. So when we provide loans, we provide capital. That's the root of capitalism. So apparently that's evil. We don't provide capital when we provide loans. We provide economic freedom. So who says lenders aren't brave? Please welcome our brave, courageous economic freedom fighters. And we'll go ahead and get started here.
I like it.
Okay, we're gonna start off with just the lay of the land right here. So we've had introductions. We'll start near side to far side here. Patrick, just a little bit for the group, if they don't know you, how does your organization differ from traditional lending in the context of business and commercial lending?
Sure. So a couple things, some history. COIC, Central Oregon Intergovernmental Council. We're a council of governments to serve our 3-county region. We facilitate a lot of projects. You might know us by the buses. We have adult education, youth education, and community economic development, of which I'm a loan officer. And I basically manage some EDA, Economic Development Administration revolving loan funds. We've had them for almost 40 years. In the rural areas, I have a USDA fund. And basically, our role is a non-traditional lending role. We're working with people that are not qualifying with the banks for a variety of reasons, whether it's historical financials or new business, if you said retail or restaurant, if you had some hiccups along the way. We fit in this space to help our economic community move forward. And one of the things that differentiates us is that we kind of stretch some of the guidelines. Now, we're all looking for good loans. We're looking for loans that, we're comfortable that our clients can pay back. But we take other things into consideration along the process, whether it's collateral, whether it's down payment. And it gives us a lot of latitude. But people are only working with us if they cannot move forward with a bank, and or we fit and partner with the banks and or credit unions. I want to include credit unions here too, because the commercial credit unions are great in our area. And we will partner with them to help people get over the finish line for real estate, equipment types of loans. But we fit a certain niche here. And potentially, if things are slowing down, that's when my business picks up. Go ahead, Allie.
Thank you, Patrick. My name is Allie Pimantu here. I work with a group called Craft 3. We're a CDFI, which is a Community Development Financial Institution. And that's a designation by the U.S. Department of the Treasury. And essentially, we provide loans to organizations that can demonstrate a social and or environmental impact, job creation, early childhood development, nonprofits, solar, land conservation, water quality, things of that nature. And we've done quite a bit of bridge financing for nonprofits, for example, where the capital stack gets pretty complex and maybe they don't fit into traditional lenders' preference at a traditional bank. I will say Patrick was one of the first people I met here when I started working with Craft 3 in February. I've been doing this work for 12 years, but we really value our relationship with Summit Bank and US Bank and some of the other regional banks in the area. And Patrick's group here, we essentially want to be able to provide a path forward for businesses and nonprofits that might not qualify for traditional lending. So, yeah, over to you.
Hello, thank you for joining us. I'm Ashley Horner. I'm with Summit Bank. I get to work with Gary, which is why I brought my wine on the stage. And probably why Jill shuffled quickly to the bar to put her card down. A requirement to be on this panel is we had to do a loan program that started with an acronym. So COIC, Craft 3 is the CDC, and I'm the SBA. So that was our first requirement. What I do at Summit Bank, I've been with the bank for 17 years, and I run the SBA division for the bank. So if you heard those naughty 3 letters of PPP, you owe me a shot of tequila, because that was my life. If you have a government guaranteed loan through the SBA, that's what I do. We have a team, or we don't have a team of 7. And we administer the program throughout the state. We do some loans in Oregon, Washington. The way SBA works, ironically, we're kind of set up in a way where if you don't qualify for SBA, or if you don't qualify for traditional financing, and there might be reasons to that, then you land with SBA. If this doesn't work, you might end with Craft 3. If this doesn't work, it might end with COIC. So ironically, we're kind of in this path of the way that we want lenders or borrowers to kind of grow is, maybe COIC, then Craft 3, then SBA, and then they go traditional. So I'm here for the SBA side of things.
Thank you, Ashley. And yeah, Ashley gets to put up with me. So Gary O'Connell, we oversee commercial lending and deposit gathering activity here. And when we say traditional, what does that mean? That just means it probably doesn't have any form of what we call credit enhancement or guarantees. However, some of our credits, there's a partnership, which I think would be a segue to the next question. But first, traditional lending can be a purchase, a refinance, or construction loan for an owner-occupied real estate facility. It can be a line of credit. It could be a capital expenditure, think machinery and equipment. It can be business acquisition. It can be a number of things. But back to our panel here, are there examples of when you partner with a traditional bank to help a client access capital or achieve economic freedom?
You want me to go first, or you want to go first?
Go ahead.
The way that I try to explain what we do, and I think we probably all have the same thing. Conventional lenders, traditional lenders, they love two things. They love collateral and they love the history to repay the future. And most businesses, they're looking to the future to repay the future. That is very difficult for conventional lenders, bless your sweet soul, to understand that when I buy this new equipment, it's going to open up this new product line. It is that money that will then pay you back. That is where we all come in. So if you look at your historical cash flow, your monies, and you say, if I get this fill in the blank, this new location, this new equipment, this new whatever it is, my historical cash flow can't support that, you're likely going to land at a table with one of us three. So I would say that's a good summary of why conventional, traditional lending might not be the right path for you, or you don't have collateral. Not everybody owns a home. And as much as my kid eats, he's worth nothing. So in order for me to get a loan, somebody's got to take a leap of faith here. And again, conventional lenders, they want something to sell at the end of the day. Well, we do a lot of our lending based off of this thing called character. And are you really going to pay us back? And there's ways that we test that. But I would say that's a big difference.
Yeah, I would agree, and I hope you don't mind my jumping in here, Patrick.
Please.
But
Speaking.
One of the really important things in our work is to make sure that the businesses and nonprofits we're speaking with always have an image in mind of the path forward. And so whether that's been a referral that's come from a bank because someone doesn't fit into their credit box and then they've come over to us because we can give them the path forward, or we can reach out to COIC or an SBA program, really the importance of the referrals, right? And an alternate approach. And in some cases, and I would say, so I'm a large dollar lender at Craft 3. And basically, we're in my role, we're lending between 1 and 5 million per project. We can go further north than that with participations. But one of the pieces in our work that's really important is that we incubate businesses and nonprofits, right? We want to get these businesses to the lowest cost of capital. We're mission forward, impact forward, and that's really helping businesses and nonprofits manage their cash flow. So one of the ways we can do that is by keeping ourselves informed about the other products and services available out there, so we can make sure that anyone that's talking with us can go to the right lender for them.
Wow, a lot of great stuff so far. Couple things. One, I'm a small lender. I do microloans at $25,000. I max out typically about $250,000. But the thing is, I think it's important that people understand that there's other viable sources, and that's why we're here today. You think about lending. Oh, I got to have all this great stuff on my books. I've got to have all this together. It's important to do that, of course, but there are alternatives out there. And a lot of people stop themselves at the wall and don't understand that there are alternatives out there that are viable, productive, they're good deals to move people forward. We'll work with, as I said earlier, with the banks that want to mitigate risk on projects or credit unions to get people a little bit further with down payment, things like that. We're fortunate that last year we received a benefit through basically a grant with Business Oregon, who's not here today. I'm kind of filling in for Tom Snell with Business Oregon, another place you should check out for lending too. Great statewide organization. But we have a loan loss reserve program, and that allows us to make concessions on collateral, because collateral is very important on loans. But we'll be in second position making concessions. Again, just trying to move this vehicle forward to get people down that path of growing or retaining jobs. The pandemic was, huge business for me. I'll tell you, we kept a lot of businesses afloat during that process that are back on track, and they're growing again. But, we want to move our community forward, so we're doing whatever we can.
Can each of you provide an example of a business in Redmond, maybe without the name, but the profile of a business who we might find in Redmond that could benefit from your credit solutions that wouldn't otherwise have access to this capital for hiring or for investments? So just general industry size type.
So I'm in a situation, since my information's public, that I can talk about businesses that you can support here in Redmond. Some of the businesses that are on our books that we've helped in the past that are growing, Dana Signs, for instance, huge player in this town. New place opened up across the street, across from Chang's, Pangea Guild Hall. Fantastic little place, little coffee store, do cocktails at night. We're trying to help these businesses grow, get them started, and move forward. And they're all doing great.
I'm going to have not as good of an answer. I've been with Craft 3 since February, and so we work in Oregon and Washington. So unfortunately, I haven't had the privilege of working with the Redmond-based business, but I'm working on it, and it's a goal of mine for this next year. But I will say one of the niches that I think we can fill is really nonprofit financing, particularly with construction. I was speaking with someone earlier tonight about how if you're these nonprofits are working on construction projects, you've got all these grant commitments, but there's kind of like this timing gap. And so if you're working on a project, or if you're working with a nonprofit that has grants lined up, but there's a timing gap there, you can come and speak with us. We'll lend on that. We'll obviously want to speak to the granting agencies and get a sense of that timeline, but we really want to be able to really address the needs of the local community, and especially if we're leveraging philanthropic dollars and we can address a gap in the market there, we'd happy to do it.
That's great. When it comes to Summit Bank, we can't speak about who our clients are, and to give you guys kind of a tangible, when we do marketing with people, we can then share if we've clearly, you'd know that there's a relationship. One that isn't in Redmond, but I think a lot of you might know, is Cafe Yum. So I have financed every Cafe Yum. There's 17 of them. If you step on the tile in the Portland airport, that's worth a lot of money. So be real careful with those suckers. But we've built Cafe Yum side by side with them when they were nothing to where they are today. A few years ago, there was a company I can speak about called Goodies. I think you've heard of them once or twice. And they went through an acquisition, and we were able to stand side by side with them and help them through that acquisition. So we do everything from startups to business acquisitions, real estate acquisitions. Permanent working capital is a really big one for people these days. Things aren't getting any cheaper. So helping kind of bridge that gap has been a big thing. Debt refi has been huge during COVID and pandemic, and people were pivoting and trying to bootstrap things together. We've been really busy taking people out of those high rate loans and getting them into something that's a little more manageable. I'm not a cheap date, still expensive, but it's way cheaper than probably what you're paying or your friends are paying.
Thank you all. I also want to give a shout out to Business Oregon. Tom Chanel was supposed to be here tonight. He couldn't make it. Many of you know Tom, but
I am Tom Schnell without hair.
Thinking how to respond to that. I'll just abstain, but yeah.
Pass me a hat.
But I do want to give a shout out for Business Oregon, and they have so many programs and a lot of funding from recent federal packages. But nonprofits, operating companies, the programs can vary. So, for example, a traded sector company might have access to different programs than a local company, but deal sizes generally under $5 million down to a couple $100,000. They do a great job. They're part of this ecosystem we have as well, and a very critical one. It's a public-private partnership, typically with banks. So there's a lot out there. There's a lot that's not known. The next question is, is it more challenging right now to write a loan? What are the stresses and challenges in this environment?
Go ahead.
And borrowing money is really expensive, and we have a level of due diligence we have to perform. As much as we love character, and if you smile nice and we should give you the money, there's other pieces that go into that. And people have resiliently kind of grown through the pandemic to present times, and money's not cheap. So when we see if they can repay it with current rates, it can be tough. So maybe we're not lending the full amount that they need, and we're trying to cobble together through other resource partners some solution that's going to work for them to kind of maybe not get them the equipment installed that they want, but maybe we can do a used piece of equipment, and you're going to maybe have to borrow somebody's electrician's garage person to help. I don't know, but we try. There's a lot more bootstrapping that's happening between us through our own relationships because it's just so expensive to borrow. I would also say one thing that's been hard for, I think, a lot of borrowers is they've seen this trajectory out of the pandemic and things are starting to slip back. We see it a lot with consumer spending where there was this huge like, let's go. And then you just starting to see it kind of fall back down. Home improvement things are starting to fall back down. So being vigilant of, we call it stress testing, like, oh, you did so great 2 years ago, but like, what were your numbers pre-pandemic? Because that might be a better indicator of where things could potentially be heading. And having those honest conversations. Nobody wants to say, you look great, you're kind of slipping, but what was it like 6 years ago for you? I think that would be the biggest difficult piece right now is having those real honest, it's not going to get any better after November, right, wrong, or indifferent. It's not going to get any better in December or January. So we're probably going to be on this ride for the next 12 months. So thinking kind of more negatively, probably.
I'll be the Pollyanna of the bunch.
Good.
So I will say I was working in affordable housing during the pandemic, and that was quite a doozy. But I'm proud to say we kept everyone in their homes. That was in our portfolio. Almost burnt out as a result of it, but I'm staying strong. I agree that the difficulty, I loved how you framed it. And I'm going to paraphrase here, but it takes more time to understand the story. Like a big part of my job is assessing patterns, right? And we're looking at data, we're looking at financial history, we're trying to assess what the financial history is going to say about the future. And pretty much any loan applicant that I'm talking with has these like 2 or 3 years that were just anomalies, and then nothing is consistent. So really trying to understand were there, and I know I've been talking about grants a lot during my comments, but were there grants that came into place if you're a nonprofit that helped float during that time? How has your addressable market changed during that time? And I would say the difficulty really is it does take more time to understand the story behind the numbers and how much has that business owner learned from that experience in terms of risk management. And that's a really big piece. Like, how honest are people about how difficult that was? And that goes back to the character piece. If someone comes in and they, say it was fine, cakewalk, if the numbers are showing a different story, that's going to raise some flags for us. But yeah, I'll stop there. I'm rambling a bit. Over to you, Patrick.
Ashley, thank you for being a breath of fresh air that everything is not all rosy, okay? I'm not a doomer. I think of myself more of a pragmatist, but I look at news and macro and microeconomics probably deeper than what you'll see on mainstream media, okay? When you talk about, stress tests, we look at our customers, like, how did they pivot during the pandemic? What's their rationale on how they're moving forward? How much foresight are they putting into the future of probabilities that won't always work out perfectly? So we're keeping this communication window really open, very transparent, because we're trying to decipher through all this whole process of communication. Does this deal make sense for everybody? Does it make sense for you? Does it make sense for us? And what can we do to structure a situation that's really going to be beneficial?
Great answers. And I might just add for our business clients who are applicants, business decision makers, we are in the same boat because we hear the challenges from our business owner clients. We share uncertainty is right up there. Do I make that investment now? Uncertainty about interest rates. 13 days is an important day from now. It could go a lot of ways. So I think sitting down, having interaction, and sharing what areas where there's exposure, sharing, what the plans are. Really, when a business can really articulate their secret sauce, and whether it's formal or informal, a formal business plan or they just have command over their operation. They have a niche that they found where they have sustainable margins, they have a sustainable competitive advantage somewhere. When they can clearly articulate that and build confidence with their lender partners, I think that's really key. In multifamily right now, it's a different game, commercial real estate investments, but we are stress testing interest rates, we're stress testing vacancy rates, we're stress testing cap rates. The interest rate environment, people smarter than us are saying a 50 basis point or half a percentage lowering of the Fed funds rate in November, and then our bank is planning for another 100 basis points or 1% for next year. That may or may not happen, so that's why we're doing stress tests up and down. So to the extent that the business decision maker, the person applying for credit, can really articulate that they've thought about these things and they have contingency plans, I'd say that gives a measure of confidence to us. I don't know if you'd agree with that or not, but.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're short on time. I'm going to turn the dial up a little bit more, maybe on a more difficult question, because we really want people, biggest regrets when we really come to admire, there's so many great business owners and personalities, successful people, but it's unfortunate when maybe, we all have blind spots. And how I want to frame this question is, have you ever dealt with a business owner from a lessons learned standpoint, where they came to you, you fell in love with their model or their product or their service, or they had a really good operational control, but maybe there was a weakness on the financial side of the house, or maybe they had a customer concentration issue or some other blind spot. Can you, in terms of lessons learned, when somebody comes to you, what are the preparatory measures that can give them the best likelihood of success in terms of what you are going to look for and what they can prepare in their plan when they come to you?
Well, absolutely. The financials. I work with a lot of new businesses in the area here, and I'll make sure that they have resources out there: SBDC, Central Oregon Score, Opportunity Knox. There's all sorts of just the library. Lisa, my library data goddess over here. There's so much great stuff, but people need to understand that those resources are key. But I think a blind spot for us possibly is sometimes I hear a story that's just wonderful. The vision is just perfect, but we have to say, does this person have the capability of executing it? Do they really have the experience, the knowledge, the skills? That it's a complete package there.
That's a great question, by the way. I appreciate the question. We're a character lender as well, and I would say the projects that I've financed that have gone south for us have gone south when communication broke down. And I think that happens because as a lender, and I do community development finance, right? Like the mindset is partnership, as I'm sure is the same for everyone up on the stage right now. But the minute someone that I'm working with starts deliberately hiding information, almost kind of like an us versus them thing, that's when communication breaks down, and that's when we lose the ability to work with them. I've worked with 4 different nonprofit loan funds, and in every single one, there's always a solution in place if we know about an issue early enough. So if we're only finding out about it at the last minute, we probably are very limited in what we can do. But if we find out about something, if there's a supplier that has an issue, margins are changing, there's a contract, if the earlier we know about it, the earlier we can help out. So I would say, I don't know if I'm directly answering your question, but I would just encourage you to understand that any funding partner that you're working with is on your side. You have aligned interests, and if you can come to them early with an issue, it gives them a better position to be able to get creative and figure out a solution forward for you. Yeah.
I agree with everything that the panelists have said. The 2 things I would add: if you're an existing business and if you don't know your numbers and you're going to go talk to your lender, bring the person that knows the numbers, and don't pretend like you know how they got there. Just bring the controller or the CFO. Nobody likes a BSer. I promised I wouldn't curse on the stage. So I would say, number 1, if you're existing and looking at your existing cash flow, know your numbers or bring the person that does. Number 2, if you are going to be doing something that's projection-based, what we do is we reverse engineer the numbers. So if you say you're going to make $100,000 in January, I want to know how many widgets you're going to sell? And can you really make that many widgets? And I'm going to boil it down. And if you can't really make 100 widgets in January, then why the F are you telling me you're going to sell them? So just boil it down, reverse engineer your numbers, and have something substantial that explains why you're going to be able to sell X amount of widgets. And if you don't know how that is, that's okay. But there's somebody that came up with those numbers that knows them, and bring those people along. Don't try and come up with an answer. We're going to figure out it doesn't work, and then our whole theory of character falls right down the toilet real fast.
I'm just going to relate to the transparency being key.
I will not curse. I told you I will not curse.
Transparency, be transparent. It can only work for you. A lot of businesses don't understand, sometimes they don't understand, at least in my world, what their product or service really cost. Seriously, your accountant, CPA, whatever you can figure out through the resources we have, understand everything that makes up what you're selling or delivering to the market, all the pieces. It's so important for you to understand those things. That's it.
And if you don't, it's okay to say, I don't. That's a great question. I hadn't thought about that. Then let's unpack that piece of it. Don't fake it. This is longer than a first date. You end up married to us for 10 to 15 to 20 years, so it's not going to start well.
Nobody wants divorces around here.
I think it's fair to say there's a lot of untapped access to capital. You see the passion of the panel here, other bankers in the room that we see as well. And there's nothing that's more disappointing to me, to a business owner, and explain that, they explain to you that, my banker didn't call me back, or my banker was out of the area. And because the help is here, and it's all here in Central Oregon with all the banks. I'll just say that we to some degree, we all partner. If we were to boil this down in simple terms, come see your banker sooner rather than later, not when the house is on fire. Next, think of a win-win outcome. A win-win outcome, as we look at it from what we call a borrowing cause, or how are you going to use the funds from your loan proceeds, is if you can convey how this is financially accretive or beneficial to your organization, 99% of the time, that loan is probably going to work. If that's true, but you can't explain it, we hate to see that untapped access to capital, and that's very disappointing. So it's a collaborative process that takes time. So don't wait till you need the funds next week and then come in and see any of these folks or other bankers in the room. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, or if there's any other tidbits on that.
No tidbits.
None to add.
Okay, so let's turn it up another notch.
That's nothing.
Okay,
Nothing.
And then just give us a warning when we're good on time. Okay, we're looking for, let's pull the audience here first. So how many, the business climate, the outlook for the business climate in Oregon, we'll just do a Roman vote here. How many are optimistic about the business climate in Oregon over the next near term, 1 to 2 years? Roman vote, hand, thumb up. Okay, neutral, or wait 13 days and then decide? Okay, how many are feeling a little bit, there's some anxiety there, and not sure. Okay, same question for Redmond. How many are optimistic and bullish about the future business climate in Redmond? Okay. Do I even need to ask? No. Okay, so that's just very interesting. The next bold question, okay, bold predictions for 2025 in the business lending context, not global, but...
I think there's going to be a huge demand on capital because rates have already started to drop, and we're seeing it in our shop already. I would, if you think you have a project coming up, get your ducks in a row, call your lender, call one of us, get in line, because I think next year it's going to be busy.
I'm not a big bold predictions type of person in general. I've been a lender for too long for that. I tend to be risk averse, but I agree. I think we're already seeing some businesses come to us that are recognizing that interest rates are going to potentially continue to improve for them. It's been a really, really rough environment for people. And so particularly with, expansion financing, no bold predictions from me, unfortunately. Sorry, but.
I'm opposite of you two.
All right.
That's great.
I think rates are going to go up.
Yeah.
They're going to go up for a bit, and then they're going to come down. But I think we're going to, over the near term, we're going to see some interesting things happen. I look at the 10-year Treasury, less concerned about the Fed. I think the rates are driven by the bond market, which is the smartest universe on this planet, and that they're seeing things out there that say inflation costs are still wildly up there. But this gets back to, you all have different businesses that appeal to your clients in the way they do. Just some businesses will just punch right through that. It won't matter. Some businesses it's going to affect. See where you are in that position there.
Okay, well, I guess answering the same thing. Other than an unforeseen black swan event, global uncertainty, interest rate uncertainty, economic uncertainty, I don't really have any concerns either. So that said, thank you for being here. We have a few minutes to open it up for Q&A. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that now, and please fire away.
Bring it.
Chris.
Thank you, panelists, for being here. I just wanted to give a shout out to Craft Creek. One of our clients is a client of yours, and it was because of what you just said is being fair to the lender. They came to the table, they were transparent, but they also had incredible social media following. They had their ducks in a row, and they were able to open their doors and fill a gap that was needed in the community, not only in Bennett, but in Central Shore. And so we've been able to help support sustainability and growth, and support was really able to provide this. And because of you, we were able to open the doors. So thank you. Craft Creek is totally unique. I'm not dismissing any, CYC, Forest Patrick, we're all on that there, and some as well for what you all do with Craft Creek.
Thank you. Thank you. I promise that was not a plant in the audience. That was I'll give you a $5 bill in a minute. Yeah.
We put out so many different references when people go checks, right? We give referrals and so forth like that. And they were really blessed to figure out that Craft Creek was the right fit. There was good alignment there. And so it's really neat to be able to support the economic vitality and development that we have here. So thank you guys both.
And thank you for your work too. Thank you.
Right here.
So you said that you guys you stress test on loans based. You can do that based on rate, historicals, and so forth. But it's arguable whether we've been in a recession or going into a recession, and I think that there's a lot of confusion on it. How do you stress test your business going forward with knowledge that you have no idea which direction we're going into the economy?
For those of you in the back, the question up front here is, how do you stress test a business going forward, given all the uncertainty in mind? What do you look for?
I'm going to refer to the bankers on this one.
This sounds kind of juvenile, what I do. I take their P&L and I figure out what's fixed expenses and what's variable. And then I see what is fixed and what's never going to change, and what's variable and what can we control. And then whatever their fixed expenses are, I total it up, and how many widgets do they need to sell to make that happen. So it's almost like a break even, but I do fixed and variable, figure out what the percentage of payroll is per revenue, and I just keep dialing it down to see, does it make sense? Can they survive on a 10% revenue decrease? What happens? 20%. Okay, they're still there. 30%. Oh boy. And it becomes a gut check. There's no calculator for it.
And I'll expand on that a little bit, in that there are quite a few mechanisms available to lenders to help prepare and just prepare for the unexpected. And I understand that covenants and conditions and loan monitoring are a headache, but they're so essential because it allows us an easy checkpoint early on in a lending relationship to be able to, again, see the patterns that are coming up. So the stress testing at underwriting and credit analysis is really important, but the way the loan is structured, we want to see that there are reserves in place, how much cash is on hand to weather the unexpected, because there's going to be, inevitably, there's going to be something that comes up. It's just a matter of what and when. And so I think that beyond stress testing, it's really important to think about how frequently you're in touch with your lender, what type of cash reserves you have, and other risk mitigants available to us there. Yeah.
Those would all be perfect in my world, but I live on the edge.
Living on the edge.
As you should, right? As you should.
As I was meant to be in non-traditional lending.
It's an excellent question. If you can figure that one out, please be a consultant for all the banks in the country. There's 4,500 of them that would take you on. A business stress test, very difficult. We think what it boils down to is it's a bit academic, but we mentioned earlier, what is your sustainable competitive advantage? What is your secret sauce? And the other part is, quite frankly, just grit, the perseverance of the business decision makers and owners. How were they in the Great Recession? How were they during the last downturn, during the pandemic? So I'd say the way to shorten that stress test is to maintain ongoing relations with your business credit provider so that, there's just that known relationship and level of trust. So when it comes time for that, it's a shorter conversation rather than starting from new.
Oh, can I add one more thing? And I'm sure this audience knows this. Just because you're applying for credit as a business doesn't dismiss who you are personally and how you deal with your own personal stuff. So how you pay and deal with your own personal debt is a true indication of how you're going to deal with us. So right, wrong, or indifferent, I don't care if you're an LLC, an INC, an SBA at 1, 2, 3. How you perform personally with your own stuff is going to highly indicate to us what kind of risk you are.
I'm gonna piggyback on that one a little bit and just say, keep some money in your business. I see so many businesses out there where the business is a conduit to their personal lifestyle. And then when things happen and they're knocking on their door for money, it's kind of like, hey, where were you in the savings program for your business?
Just add one more thing, because all the banks in town talk and we share notes, and maybe the most frequent cause of credit stress for a business has been in concentrations on the sales side or the customer side, but also concentrations on the supply chain side. And look, we know it's very difficult. There's a lot of M&A right now, but for example, if 90% of your sales are to Walmart or Costco, there's supply chain leverage there, and it's not yours, it's theirs. And so that's been maybe the most common cause of some credit stress right now. So we'll have a conversation, and maybe what that looks like is, well, what if if you were dropped by a supplier, or if you lost this customer, or there's a bad debt to that customer that you do 90% of your business with. That would be an active conversation. So having your financial staff help you with getting those numbers and that level of exposure could be very beneficial. This is riveting, isn't it? Steve.
There's also this quantitative easing where they've been pulling money out of the system because so much got over the last few years. There's other factors besides just the Fed rate that impact your lending rates. So if that happens, where do you see that your lending rates go?
Question from Steve Curley was, if rates continue to fall, and we're talking about the Fed funds rate, which impacts your prime rate, how does that impact lending rates? And so there's a few bankers in the room. I think we've seen maybe a softening up until the last week or two. But we're talking apples and oranges a little bit. So the Fed funds rate, the one that was cut in September, is tied to Fed funds. And that's the rate at which banks borrow from each other. And then the prime rate is typically 3 points above that. Your prime rate is tied to your credit card, your home equity line of credit. We also have what we call long rates. That's typically 3, 5, or 10 years, and we use different indices like the Treasury. And historically, it's still very low. It just doesn't feel like it. That loan that is now 6% today was in the 3s 2 or 3 years ago. And so we have seen the softening, but the other factors that impact those rates is the availability of lending capacity. It's also a risk factor that's also built into there. So it's the perception of risk, It's the interest rate markets. It's the availability of supply. And unfortunately, in banking, there's a lot of mergers and acquisitions right now. We're down to 4,500 banks. We're down to 77,000 branches in the country. There used to be 100,000 branches. There used to be 7,000 or 8,000 banks. So if you find a good one, partner with them long term and build a good relationship. So is that what you're looking for? Okay. Anybody else have a response to that?
Yeah, I'll just add from the CDFI perspective. So CDFIs historically tend to lag behind traditional lenders because of a source of funding. So we typically our loan pools are funded by federal dollars, state dollars, philanthropic dollars, and we do borrow as well. But so we typically tend to lag behind the market as rates fluctuate. So just wanted to name that, fess up on that a little bit.
SBA 7A is tied to prime. So when prime moves, we move. So when rates drop, they drop. Payments get smaller.
I have a dartboard. Seriously.
Why am I not surprised?
Of course. So generally, I mean, our rates are typically below the market. They're supposed to be. I mean, I'm in economic development. I'm a nonprofit just trying to keep the wheels spinning where we work. But we still position ourselves, I guess, within that wheelhouse. But we're laggers. But believe me, if our rate's lower than the banks or SBAs or whatever, you're going to have to go there if you qualify. That's it.
One more question. Not everyone at once. All right.
Bar time. I don't
Please
know.
join me in thanking these economic freedom fighters up here. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you all. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, panelists. We hope you've enjoyed this program. There's a lot of content, but what I hope you take away, there's a lot of smart people in Redmond that are willing to help continue to add to the prosperity of Redmond. So if you don't know somebody to talk to and you need help for your business, talk to Steve Curley, talk to a board member, talk to somebody that you heard up here. I think everyone has the same shared interest of keeping Redmond great and continuing to see our economic prosperity. Few things, if you'll draw your attention up here, we have Central Oregon Pub Talk coming up November 21st. January 8th will be our REDI Investor Social. It is much fun and anticipated. February sometime, we will have the EDCO annual luncheon somewhere in Bend, more than likely. Thank you all to everybody coming out. Our title sponsors, Express Employment Professionals, Summit Bank, and our presenting sponsors, i3D Manufacturing, BBSI, supporting sponsors, Mike's Fence Company, Sunwest Builders, Seneca Holding, Chase Doors. Thank you to our gracious hosts, General Duffy's Annex. Last but not least, thank you all for coming out here and making Redmond great. Basalite Concrete Products, thank you. Our panelists, thank you as well. Please, we have plenty of time to mingle, socialize, drink more, and there's food in the back. Thank you all.